All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, goddesses. Welcome to the first Feminine Frequency Friday. I'm going to give a welcome. So I am your host for Sacred Feminine Frequency Friday, Ocean Cami. So many of you probably also know me as Lady Shepsa. So I still go by the name Lady Shepsa. I'm not against Lady Shepsa. But in this phase of my life, I'm embracing the name Ocean Cami. Ocean Cami basically means Oshun takes very good care of me. Oshun nurtures me. It's almost like Oshun pampers me. So when I was given that name from my temple, from my Alua, which is my spiritual teacher, I was like, I love this name. I love the name Oshun Kami. And different parts of our life, we may use different names. So, I'm not against Shepsa. If you call me Lady Shepsa, if you see me on the street or on the internet, you say Lady Shepsa, it's fine. But I'm definitely stepping into my Oshun Kemi era. Okay. So this is my first time going live. So say hello to me in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me. I'm going to get into what we're going to talk about today. I see we have some people. Shout out to the people who come live. I know it's early, and I know depending upon where you are located, it may be easy for you to, go live or show up at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time zone it is. But I'm happy that you are here. We're going to get started. The topic for today is the return of the sacred feminine, the return of the sacred feminine. And first of all, I wanted to begin to do something that is consistent for my audience. Social media is very interesting right now. Instagram has been where I've lived a lot, but I don't find that this is the best place for my teaching because I really am a teacher and I like to go deep. And right now, Reels, they really promote really short snippets and little clips, but I really want to go deep. So this time on Fridays, Feminine Frequency Fridays, will be a time for me to go a little deeper with you all on a more consistent basis. So let's talk about our topic, the return of the sacred feminine. All right. So in Hindu mythology, we have something called the Kali Yuga. All right. So the Kali Yuga is basically a time of, of, of darkness, right? There are four stages in Hindu cosmology, and this time of darkness is characterized by moral decline. Vices become dominant. People basically begin to value material items and things over people, right? Over being spiritual, being connected to nature, over their practice. So during this time of the Kali Yuga, it's a time of darkness. But we are actually ending the stage of the Kali Yuga. And when this stage of the Kali Yuga is being ended, what is happening? The virtues begin to reemerge. The essence of the divine feminine begins to reemerge, right? We start to become more aware. I'm sweating, these lights don't mind me. We start to become more aware of the injustices that are happening on the planet. And we start to become aware of feminine energy being repressed. So feminine energy has been repressed for millennia. But if we notice in the last several decades, what are people talking about? People are talking about the goddess. Women are beginning to wake up to their power. People are beginning to step away from Western religions that are male dominated, that are patriarchal, and they're beginning to want to connect with nature. They're beginning to want to learn about herbs. They're beginning to want to learn about indigenous practices, whether that is traditional African spirituality, Native American practices, Tantra. All these topics are trending now. Why are they trending? Because the darkness that has been over our planet, for the last several hundred years, this darkness is beginning to fade and people are beginning to actually wake up. So as we are waking up, we have to become ready, okay? Because those who do not wake up will basically be left behind. You don't want to be left behind in the darkness. And I'm not talking about like religion, how in Christianity they talk about, Jesus is coming back and he's going to take his people with him. And then if you're not saved, you're going to be left behind. I'm not speaking about that. That type of, rapture. I'm talking about consciousness. I'm talking about people being left behind this evolution that humanity is going through. And those who are left behind won't make it because they won't have the tools that equips them to deal with this new paradigm. What is the new paradigm? The new paradigm is going to be one of balance. It's going to be one where healing is centered. It's going to be one where we are more connected to the earth. So if you don't have a practice of doing these things, then you're going to be crumbling. You're going to struggle. So if we look at what's happening, I'm in the United States. I know most of the people who watch me are probably in America, but I know I have some international people. But regardless of that, what happens in America does impact the entire world. Everything I like to call them Agent Orange, the Orange Man is doing in the White House, trying to, kick out quote unquote immigrants and illegals, trying to withhold people's benefits that they have been getting, right? The SNAP benefits, basically trying to starve people. All of this that is happening is the old paradigm. They know their time is up. They are clutching and they are clawing and they are trying to stay relevant. They're scared. Okay. These old white men, honey, they are scared as fuck. They know that their delusion, because they really are delusional, because they think that they are God, right? And we are God in terms of being divine beings, but these people are ego-centered, they're ego ruled. So they really don't see themselves as one with the divine, because if they saw themselves as one with the divine, they would understand that what you do to somebody else, you do to yourself. And this is the big issue with that. So there's an author who I love to quote named Dr. Mirimba Ani, and she wrote a book called Yurugu. And in Yurugu, she talks about this concept of the Ma'afa. The Ma'afa is a Swahili term that means the great disaster. And it talks about the period of colonization and slavery that happened, particularly to people of African descent, right? But it has happened around the world. Where the Western man kind of went in, colonized, stole, tried to make the native people forget who they really were, told them that their practices were savage and things like that, and tried to separate them from who they are. So if you function, any being that functions like that is not connected to the divine. Okay, because then they would understand that what I do to you, I do to myself. So everything that's happening right now, with Agent Orange, with ICE, all of this is really them trying to, they know that their time is up. They know that the old way is dying and that the new world is being born. So this is happening. And for us, what we see, even for me, it can be very disturbing. It can be very troubling. But I'm going to give you some 3 ways to be connected to your feminine energy during this time period so that you do not get left behind, right? So you do not feel broken, or, you don't get swallowed in the chaos. So the first thing I'm going to advise you to do, as we are embracing this return of the sacred feminine, is to regulate your nervous system. Okay. Nervous system regulation is super important. What is our nervous system? So I study spiritual herbalism with a wonderful woman named Empress Karen Rose. And she says, basically, she taught us that our nervous system is really like a tuning fork for our environment. So our nervous system helps to attune us to our environment, helps to regulate the systems in our body. So many of us are familiar with our nervous system, with the 2 aspects of it, which is the parasympathetic or the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight nervous system. This is activated when we're stressed. And what this does is either prepares us to fight, to flee, or to freeze. And some people have added also fawn right within this. And then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest nervous system. This is the aspect of us that allows us to relax and to heal. So when we are stuck in fight or flight, as the media, as Agent Orange, as everything is trying to have us be stuck in fight or flight right now, what happens? Our nervous system becomes dysregulated and we cannot heal. Right? We're not grounded, we're not centered. And when we're not grounded and we're not centered, we're not able to respond appropriately to what's happening right now in our world. So, so much was taken from us, as Indigenous people. But what we have control over is our ability to regulate our nervous system, our bodies. So to help you to regulate your nervous system, what I suggest is that you have a daily, it could be just 10 minutes, a 10-minute spiritual practice. Okay. So for me, since the new moon, if you work with me before, you know, a big thing that I meditate a lot, but I also practice Qigong. And Qigong is a moving meditation. If you work with me, and you know we do this a lot, you also could just go on YouTube and find some Qigong videos. Qi means life force, Gong means the cultivation of a skill. So through Qigong, as just one example, we're able to cultivate our life force energy. So you don't do Qigong or you're not familiar with it, then you can perhaps yoga is your practice. Perhaps just taking a walk in nature is your practice. But if you do not have a daily practice to regulate your nervous system during these very turbulent times, I'm going to say you're going to be left behind, right? You're going to be swept up in the chaos. So even if it's just 10 minutes a day, you can give that to yourself. This is a gift to you. Give yourself 10 minutes in your day. I suggest in the morning, when the earth is quiet, you know, maybe before the kids have woken up, before you go to work and have to deal with the BS there, give yourself 10 minutes a day to connect to your body, to connect to your breath, to ground, and be consistent in that practice. Again, just 10 minutes a day. And if you can gradually extend it, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then that is absolutely wonderful. This is what you want to do. Okay. So that's the first thing. You need to regulate your nervous system. And I suggest that by doing a 10-minute a day practice, whether that's meditation, yoga, qigong, go walk in nature, you know, tea. Listen, I have my tea here. Okay. The tea is a big part of my practice. I am really big on working with herbs. I make my own herbal infusions part of my morning ritual every single morning, even if I don't meditate, right? Because I'm busy, I'm gonna drink some tea. Okay. So I make my tea, and that is part of my practice. So that's the first thing, to make sure that you are thriving at this time, connected to your sacred feminine energy and not drowning in chaos. The second thing, along with having a daily spiritual practice, you need to have a spiritual toolkit when times get rough. Okay. So we have our daily practice, and that's kind of like our daily maintenance, your little daily check-in, fill your cup. But you also should have some tools for when times get really hard. So for me, a big tool has been a ritual. Okay. If you also work with me, rituals are a big part of what I do. Um, if you have, I like to follow the lunar cycles. So I have a full moon ritual that I usually do. I do new moon rituals. For those who are watching this live now, I will be having a full moon ritual and free masterclass this Thursday. We had the super moon this week on Wednesday. I'll be having my Unlock Your Forbidden Power masterclass. So if you type forbidden, you'll get the link to sign up for that. And where we go even more deeper into these concepts and how to unlock your spiritual power, and also why the patriarchy is so scared of the power of women. But you need to have some type of regular, extended spiritual practice, some ritual. Ritual is what our ancestors used to ground them. Ritual is what our ancestors used to survive. And this is why it's a huge part of my practice, right? So let's take, for example, the people of Haiti, right? When they were enslaved, when they were dealing with the brutality of colonization, enslavement from the French, what helped to free Haiti? It was voodoo. And people don't like to talk about that. People are very scared of when you say voodoo, people get scared. I was talking to actually a Haitian guy who I met through a dating app. And I shared with him that, I went to Haiti and I got initiated in voodoo. And he was like, so he's scared of it. He don't know anything about it. I'm like, how you don't know nothing about it? You from there? I'm not even Haitian, but I know there's a lot of fear around it because people know how powerful it is. But the point is that the Haitian ancestors, what did they do? They did rituals. They called upon the African gods to help to free them from colonization and slavery. So we also have the same spiritual power within us, especially as women. We are vessels of the divine feminine. What is the power of the divine feminine? The power of the divine feminine, number one, is to receive. Okay, we receive just like our womb may receive the seed of a man and give birth to a baby. We have the ability to become impregnated with ideas, with visions. All right. So once we receive, what do? We gestate. And when we're gestating, we're nurturing this seed. We're growing this seed in our bodies. And then what do we do after that? We birth. So this is the power of the divine feminine. And it's not just related to babies. We have the power to receive, the power to gestate, and the power to birth in our everyday life. And when we are able to tap into our divine feminine energy, then we can do that. Then we look at the chaos that is happening in the larger world with the old paradigm falling, we don't have to freak out, right? We don't have to become distraught or in despair because we understand that we have the power to receive, to gestate, and to birth the new world that is happening. We can't stop it. It's already happening. It's either, you swim with it, you flow with it, or you get left behind. So we have the power to do that. So having divine feminine rituals that connect you with your divine feminine energy is going to be paramount to you at this time. And if you want to learn more, definitely sign up for my Unlock Your Forbidden Power Masterclass. Just type forbidden in the chat. It should be automated. Honestly, I can't see the chat right now. This is my first time doing this live thing. So I'll figure it out. But give me some love in the chat and I will go back and look at the comments until I figure out how to do it. All right. So the third thing that we're going to need to tap into during this time of the return of the sacred feminine, while the world is spinning in chaos, is community. Community. A big thing, a big issue with Western culture is that we feel we have to do things alone. Right? What is the belief in American culture is what they call it. They call it rugged individualism. They call it rugged individual. What's rugged individualism? Rugged individualism is I'm for me, right? That's capitalism. I'm for me, and I'm just trying to survive right now. Everything I do is for me. When our ancestors were stolen from Africa, when our communities were invaded by colonizers, the first thing they did was break up the families. They broke up the communities because they understand the power of community. So a big issue with us, not just Black people, Black and brown people or indigenous people, a big issue during this time period is loneliness. People feel isolated and alone because what do? We work and we pay bills, and that's it. That's all many of us do. We work and we pay bills, and we're stuck in this dog race, and we don't allow ourselves to connect. Many of us don't even have space or energy to connect with other people. Many of us been hurt by community. Like, let's be honest about that. Sometimes we go into communities and we feel like, oh, this is not the right fit, because we have not been taught to communicate properly. We haven't been taught to problem solve. We haven't been taught, to repair injuries that happen in communities. So many of us self isolate. And then for many of us, our lifestyle is very isolating. So that, however, it's not going to work. It's not working already. And it's definitely not going to work now as the government first of all, as the government is shut down in America, as government workers are furloughed, as they're holding back SNAP benefits from people who need it. How are we going to survive? We're only going to survive if we have community. Last week, I believe it was last week or week before last, I think it was last week, I did my Pussy is Abundance 2-day activation. And during this activation, I led the women through a meditation. And the meditation was to find out what is the blockage to you manifesting abundance in your life. And I, of course, was leading the meditation, but when I lead the meditation, I always go back and I'll do the meditation myself. So what spirit told me is what was blocking me is receiving. Okay. Again, this hyper independence. Many of us are used to doing it by ourselves. So I really went deep with that, right? I went into how during my childhood, my parents had their own little traumas going on. My mom was a single mom with 3 kids. My father was struggling with drug addiction. I was the oldest daughter. And I learned very early, to really be self-dependent, independent to take care of myself. So when we grow up in situations of families that may have instability, families that where maybe our parental figures, we couldn't depend upon them all the time, and no, no blame or shame upon them. They're human. They were going through what they had to go through. They didn't get to heal their traumas. But for us, it's made many of us hyper independent. So that makes it very difficult for us to connect to community. Some of us find community online, so however you can begin to build community, I encourage you to build community. We will have to rely on each other right now. This is part of why I'm also doing these weekly feminine frequency live Fridays to help to build community. And when I figure out the chat, I'll be able to talk with y'all and see it. But we want to build community, and find people who are of like mind, people who are of like interests. And even if your community doesn't have to be huge, if you're able to connect with, what does it say in the Bible? I'm not a Christian, but it says, well, where two or three are gathered, right? It says that in the Bible. So if we are able to even connect to two or three people and have two or three people who we can really count on and rely on, then that is the start of a community. Find like-minded people, find people, whom you feel like you can trust. And also, we all have to work on our ability to communicate, to repair conflict, because some of us, we're uncomfortable once and we just exit. We don't actually speak up and communicate what made us uncomfortable. So we all have to learn these skills. I'm talking to myself included, because I've left several communities, but I do feel, good now in terms of the communities I participate in. Okay. So that was our three things of what we can focus on during this time where we are surviving the Ma'afa, the Kali Yuga, during this time of the sacred feminine return. Okay. So the first thing I said, regulate your nervous system. And you can do that by simply having a 10-minute a day daily practice, whether that's meditation, whether that it could be dance. Dance has been huge for me. Maybe I'll talk about that next week. Meditation, it could be yoga, it could be qigong, it could be walking in nature, it could be twerking. Okay, whatever it is, 10 minutes a day, do something that really helps you connect with your body and regulate your nervous system. Number two, you need to have some type of also wider or more involved spiritual practice, ritual, right, is what I recommend. So some divine feminine rituals that you do. It could be a bi-monthly basis, it could be new moon, full moon, it could be a weekly basis, but some type of longer ritual that you do that helps to connect you with your divine feminine power. And what is the power of the divine feminine? It is the power to gestate, the power to receive, to gestate, and to birth. There's also the power to destroy, but maybe we'll talk about that on another Friday. If you've seen the hurricane, hurricane winds, prayers for Jamaica and anybody affected by the hurricane. But in Yoruba cosmology, hurricanes winds are connected to the goddess Oya, and she comes to destroy. So the feminine also is not just, sweetness and honey dew and roses and honey kisses. The feminine is also the power of destruction. The third thing that you will need to help you at this time and to connect to your sacred feminine energy is community. Okay. So I thank you for being in my community. I thank you for showing up live. I see we got 12 people live. Shout out to y'all for coming live. We're going to be doing this every Friday. And just stay tuned for what the next topic will be. But I will be having a masterclass, a full moon masterclass this coming Thursday. If you type forbidden in the chat, it should give you the link to sign up. The link should have been going on in the chat. I'll check it out afterward. But if anybody comments and you don't see the auto reply, I'll definitely put it in the chat for after I'm done. Okay. So hope to also see you Thursday during a full moon masterclass and virtual Unlock Your Forbidden Power. And thank you for joining my first live. Give thanks for Feminine Frequency Friday. All of you who celebrate Halloween or All Hallows Eve, this is also the time of the ancestors. So do something to honor your ancestors. May that be a ritual that you engage in this weekend. And I'll see you all next Friday. Have a beautiful rest of your day.